The night everything shifted, there was no warning. No shouting echoed through the walls. No public argument spilled onto social media, and no dramatic Instagram live gave the internet something to dissect. There was no emotional rant, no viral clip, no meltdown unfolding in real time. And somehow, that absence of chaos is exactly what made the moment hit harder. When Teyana Taylor went quiet, people didn't immediately understand what was happening. They didn't recognize that her silence was not avoidance but intention. In her world, silence has always been the loudest statement she could make. For weeks afterward, she continued showing up in public looking polished and composed. She appeared confident, glowing and self-assured, moving through events with grace and calm. To the outside world, she looked unbothered and untouched. Her smile never disappeared, and her presence never wavered. But beneath that carefully maintained exterior, something had cracked. It wasn't loud or explosive, and it didn't announce itself with drama. It was quiet, personal, and deeply rooted in her heart. This wasn't the kind of pain that bruises pride or ego. It was the kind that changes how you see people, how you trust, and how you protect yourself going forward. At first, fans assumed it was just another phase of reflection, another season of healing. Teyana has always been known as a woman who walks away with dignity, who doesn't beg for understanding or overshare for sympathy. She built her reputation on strength and self-respect, choosing peace over chaos and clarity over noise. So when her online presence shifted, people dismissed it. Her posts became less frequent, her captions shorter, and while the joy in her eyes remained, it felt slightly guarded. Fans told themselves she was just evolving, just protecting her space, just moving differently. What they didn't realize was that heartbreak doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it shows up quietly, even when someone is doing everything they can to hide it. Those close to Teyana say the pain didn't come from one explosive argument or a single dramatic betrayal. There was no defining moment that shattered everything at once. Instead, the pain came through realization. It came from slowly understanding that something she trusted, something she invested emotionally in, wasn't what she believed it was. Once that truth settled in, there was no undoing it. No conversation could fix it, and no explanation could soften the blow. Some realizations don't break you instantly. They sink into you and change how you move. What made everything heavier was how public her life already was. Every appearance was watched, every smile analyzed, every moment of silence questioned. People searched for meaning in what she didn't say just as much as in what she did. While she was trying to protect her peace, someone else was dealing with a very different struggle. They were struggling with losing access to her energy, her attention, and her emotional world. That loss of access created tension that no one expected. While many assumed Teyana would be the one reacting emotionally, the opposite happened. She didn't lash out or express anger publicly. Instead, the frustration surfaced from someone else entirely. When fans finally noticed it, they were surprised. Teyana didn't clap back, didn't expose anyone, and didn't hint at betrayal. She simply stepped back. And sometimes, walking away hurts more than fighting ever could. Especially when the other person isn't ready to accept that the chapter has truly ended. People close to the situation say she didn't leave to punish anyone. She left because she was tired. Tired of emotional confusion. Tired of being strong for everyone else. And tired of carrying a relationship that no longer felt safe for her heart. Once she made that decision, she didn't look back. Not when whispers began, not when blogs picked up the story, and not even when the noise became louder and more aggressive. That's when the real tension surfaced, not from her, but from the person who didn't expect to be emotionally cut off so cleanly. Fans began noticing the cracks almost immediately. There was a subtle shift in tone and energy. Posts felt less reflective and more reactive. Captions sounded defensive rather than healed. And the calm presence people were used to began to feel restless and unsettled. At first, supporters brushed it off as coincidence or misunderstanding. Maybe it was just a bad day or a poorly worded post. But as the pattern continued, it became impossible to ignore. There was frustration there, not loud or explosive, but simmering beneath the surface. It showed up in passive messages and carefully chosen words meant to sting without naming names. Some fans called it jealousy, others called it wounded pride. and a few went further, saying it felt like entitlement. It looked like someone struggling to accept that they no longer had access to Teyana's emotions, reactions, or life. That loss of access hurt more than any public statement ever could. Rejection doesn't always come with an argument. Sometimes it comes with silence, and silence can be brutal. What intensified the situation was Teyana's refusal to engage. There were no clapbacks, no vague quotes, no emotional posts explaining her side. She kept showing up focused on her work, her child, and her creativity. She moved like someone who had already done her healing privately, away from the public eye. That contrast drove people wild. While one side appeared unsettled and stuck in the past, the other looked firmly grounded in the present. That's when fans started asking uncomfortable questions. Was the anger really about love, or was it about control? Was it about realizing that the dynamic had permanently shifted? That the person you once had influence over no longer flinched at your reactions? When someone stops responding, it forces the other person to sit alone with their emotions, and not everyone knows how to do that gracefully. The hardest part wasn't the speculation or public commentary. It was the imbalance. One person processed loudly, while the other processed silently. In the court of public opinion, that silence spoke louder than any clapback ever could. Teyana didn't react because she didn't need to. She had already done the emotional work behind closed doors. Once that door shut, she didn't reopen it for noise. Her focus became clear and intentional. Her child, her creativity, and her peace took priority. She wasn't trying to win a narrative or convince anyone of her truth. She was protecting her mental space as something sacred. That restraint made the loss of emotional access sting even more for the person on the other side of the silence. Because the hardest truth to accept was realizing that Teyana no longer needed them to feel whole. Sources say the heartbreak she carried wasn't about losing love in the traditional sense. It was about recognizing that she stayed attached out of loyalty, habit, and hope longer than she should have. When that truth landed, it didn't come gently. It came with guilt for not letting go sooner, sadness for the years invested, and grief for the future she once believed in. That kind of heartbreak doesn't scream. It settles and quietly rewires how you move through the world, how you choose yourself, and how you enforce boundaries without explanation. That's what fans were witnessing in real time. Not drama, but closure. Not bitterness, but growth. Sometimes the most powerful endings are never announced. They're simply lived. There is grief for what you hoped something would become, grief for the version of yourself that kept trying, and grief for the future you quietly release. That's why her silence wasn't cold. It was heavy. Behind closed doors, emotions were raw, conversations were tense, and words were exchanged that couldn't be taken back. Not because they were cruel, but because they were honest. Honesty, when it comes too late, can hurt more than lies. The person who was truly angry didn't just feel replaced, they felt exposed, as though the narrative they believed in was slipping away without their permission. Instead of processing that pain privately, it appeared publicly through defensive behavior and emotional reactions that didn't match Teyana's calm. Fans began choosing sides without even realizing it. Some praised her maturity, while others questioned why she wouldn't speak up. What many didn't understand was that speaking up would have reopened wounds she was actively trying to heal. Then came a moment that changed everything, a single action that was small but loud. It wasn't dramatic or explosive, but it confirmed what many had been whispering. Teyana had emotionally moved on, and someone else hadn't. That's when the anger stopped being subtle. When people realize they no longer have access to you, they often confuse heartbreak with rage. They search for someone to blame and rewrite the story to protect their ego. Suddenly, the person who walked away peacefully becomes the villain in their version of events. Still, Teyana didn't respond. Her silence forced people to look closer, and what they saw was a woman choosing herself, refusing to perform pain for the internet, and understanding that healing doesn't require an audience. Meanwhile, the emotional costs continued to pile up, being discussed daily, having her past replayed, and watching strangers debate her feelings like they were fictional characters would wear on anyone. Yet she stayed quiet, and that silence only made the other person's anger stand out more. Anger is loud, and it wants validation and acknowledgement. When it doesn't get those things, it grows. Fans began asking the question that couldn't be ignored anymore. Was this really about love, or was it about control, pride, and losing the narrative? Where things stand now is complicated. There is distance, clear emotional boundaries, and a noticeable shift in energy. Nothing is fully resolved, but one thing is certain. Teyana Taylor is no longer negotiating her peace, and the person who is truly angry is still learning how to live without access to her.